this is a nightmare. This is the path to totalitarianism. And we will welcome it in the name of protecting the children. Don't go along with this. Don't buy into any of this. These people, they do not have our best interests at heart. They will simply make you a target for actual bad guys, and actual bad guys might include them. Hey there, friends, fans, and foes of Dad Saves America. John Popola here, and I thought I would take this Friday to talk about a movement that's happening all around us to digitize our identities and to do it in the name of saving the children. But it might just be ushering in 1984.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a new law that will force Apple and Google to verify users' ages before allowing app downloads. The law also will require parental consent for minors to access certain apps or features. Lawmakers say it will protect kids from harmful content and addictive platforms. Apple and other tech companies push back, warning it could hurt user privacy and could overwhelm developers. The law will take effect in January of next year.
So in January 1st, 2026, if you live in Texas, as I do, and you want to use the App Store or the Google Play Store, and who knows what other app sources and platforms this will ultimately apply to, you will need to provide some kind of proof of identification for your age. This is, as they said, in the name of trying to protect our kids from something that, as a dad, as a parent, I am worried about. I think that the place this is coming from is understandable. It's perhaps even noble. In fact, I have plenty of friends on the political right who are behind this, folks here in Texas. And I am, let's say, more skeptical. And this is really the thing I want to dive a lot deeper into, the future of IDs, because it's one of these things that we all take for granted and that most of us haven't really thought all that deeply about.
ID, which I had to show it again. There's a strange abbreviation when you think about it. I is short for I. And then D is short for identification.
This is just to help me get through it and to help you, because where we head here is not great. Well, what does this law here in Texas actually say? There's a couple important parts I want to dig into, because it's very easy to just hand wave about laws and be hyperbolic. What does the law actually say? Well, number one, it says, in part, that when an individual in this state creates an account with an app store, the owner of the app store shall use a commercially reasonable method of verification to verify the individual's age category under subsection B. And subsection B lays out some ages that are basically below 13, 13 to 16, and then 16 to 18. So starting at 18, you're considered an adult and you're no longer subject to these requirements. You are simply subject to proving that you're above 18, which is to say everybody. So everybody's going to have to do this. Everybody's going to have to submit something commercially reasonable. Now, I don't know what that means. What is commercially reasonable? It is not really defined. So, and this is one of the problems with vague laws. When it is not very, very specifically defined, it is left to the lawyers and then to subsequent legislation to redefine. There's all kinds of things that are hard for us as parents and for us as Americans in this digital age. And this law is clearly trying to grapple with those. And one of the other ways they try to protect against the worst things that could happen is this: use of personal data. Now, this is for the developer, not for the app store. The developer of a software application may use personal data provided to the developer under this section only to enforce restrictions and protections on the software application related to age, ensure compliance with applicable laws and regulations. Now, again, that's like a little piece of language that you can drive a truck through, because regulations can be anything, including making use of our data for other purposes the government wants. Implement safety-related features and default settings. And B, the developer of a software application shall delete personal data provided by the owner of an app store under section blah, blah, blah on completion of the verification required. The law is saying they then have to delete that information. Okay, couple questions here. There's millions of apps on these app stores. How are we going to know if this is happening? Is the state going to be able to actually check and verify that this is happening? Because it's not that hard to get an app in the App Store. And to some extent, we don't want it to be that hard. On the other hand, one of the reasons that Apple constantly gets dinged for being a closed ecosystem, for being a walled garden, is they try to keep the iOS and macOS app stores from being a cesspool of malware and basically just fraudster material. So this law is trying to grapple with these things. And I think for a lot of parents, this feels like a step in the right direction. This feels like something good because we all struggle with this. We struggle with our kids' access to things on the internet and in apps. A lot of apps have things that we don't think about as parents. They have embedded chat features that let our kids get access to chatting with strangers inside of apps like Roblox, etc. And the demands on us as parents to monitor this stuff are really, really daunting. And then, of course, there's the fact that even if you're pretty technically savvy and you can implement pretty tight screen time and parental controls, well, then your kids can just get on their friend's phone when they go over their house and get access to all kinds of stuff. So what this law is trying to get at is what we call a collective action problem. How do we protect our kids from the monstrous elements of the internet? And how do we make sure that the young people in our society who don't have full agency, don't have full rights, they aren't adults, are being protected by the adults? I'm not saying this law is the worst thing in the world, but it is pointing towards lots of problems. Just one of them being that the app stores themselves can indeed be hacked. And if they are storing our additional personal information, that is available for the hackers. It is a centralized pool of data. And so this is one of the reasons why companies like Apple and Google are pushing back, especially Apple, who's really continues to be the best in the business on privacy. I just had Mike Benz on the show. That'll be out next Thursday. He's worried about CIA and NSA and all these guys. He's got an iPhone. One of the other things, before we get into the broader issues here, is that this is now going to mandate in Texas that every app knows a lot more about the users than they currently necessarily know. They don't necessarily know that it is a kid using the app, and now they will. This is one of the perverse facts of this, is that it actually makes it mandatory that these apps know the rough age of our kids when they're using them. I'm not sure that's good either, or necessarily in line with the intentions of the bill's authors. This is not isolated. This is what you could call sort of the red state component of the censorship industrial complex, because it is red states leading the charge on this. Utah is another one moving forward with exactly this kind of scheme.
A big change could be coming to how you prove who you are. Utah State is considering rolling out a digital ID to help prove who you are in your online dealings.
Everyone is born with identity.
You control your identity. You should control your digital identity.
Christopher Bramwell, Utah's chief privacy officer, is leading the state's effort to create a state-endorsed digital identity system, which would provide residents with a verified digital credential proving they are who they say they are.
So someone being able to pretend that they're me probably wouldn't happen.
The whole point of state-endorsed digital identity is to give you control of your identity so nobody can impersonate you.
Bramwell says once you receive your credential, the state won't know when you use it and it won't be tracked, but it would be stored securely in something like a digital wallet.
Yeah, so state digital ID in red Utah. And don't worry, because it'll be stored in some digital wallet. We're sure it'll be perfectly secure.
What do we tell people about why this will be secure?
So security is our top priority, but most importantly, how do you recover when there's a security breach without having to do reissuance of identity to everybody in the state.
Utah lawmakers passed Senate Bill 260 this year, which laid the baseline policy that gives individuals the right to digital identity, but not a mandate to opt in. Senator Kirk Cullimore was the bill's sponsor.
Everything is digital now.
With AI advancing rapidly, Cullimore believes many technologies will soon require state endorsement.
With AI advancing, many technologies will require the state. Keep that in your head. That's coming back.
Do you feel confident that what is in policy right now as we start to build this out is the most safe and secure?
The laws and the parameters to establish its safety and the security and the principles of freedom surrounding that are getting put into place.
Yeah, I don't know about that. This is on a very strong march. It is a march that not enough people are talking about. There are many, many states rolling out digital versions of driver's licenses. This is through the Apple Wallet and the Google Wallet. This is not the exact same thing as digital ID, but it will feel exactly the same. And this is one of the things that happens with these kinds of policies. We get normalized to this new thing, and then it just gets tweaked on the edges, a couple little changes. And before you know it, we're in a different place. We're maybe in a different country. And the reasons why this stuff happens are always noble and always driven by safety. Digital ID is not new, and centralized ID goes back really far, but one of the more recent ones is real ID.
You're probably hearing a lot now about Real ID. It's the reason everybody's rushing here to the DMV and spending hours in line for this new kind of driver's license.
Actually, at this point, I think almost all of us have this new driver's license.
Well, Real ID actually isn't that new. In fact, the Real ID Act is a federal law from 2005 that was passed as an anti-terrorism measure after the attacks on 9/11. Turns out some of the attackers used fake IDs to board the planes they later hijacked. This would, in theory, prevent that from happening again.
In theory. The claims of unhackability, well, let's just say I remain very skeptical of those.
Think about it. Your driver's license is basically your key to everything. You need it to go to a bar, pick up a concert ticket, or get on an airplane. So the feds want to make that key harder to copy. They gave states a deadline to design a new, more secure driver's license. And of course, most states missed the deadline and asked for an extension. Here in California, that extension runs out on October 1st, 2020. So starting on that day, you'll need a Real ID compliant driver's license to enter secure federal buildings, nuclear power plants, military bases, and the big one, airport security. So how do you get a Real ID? Well, you have to prove that you're you. First, you have to come to the DMV in person. That's why the lines are so long.
I mean, in one sense, every time we get to interact with the DMV, it's kind of good from a liberty perspective because it reminds us what government is like.
They have to take a brand new photo of you and also capture your thumbprint. Those go into a massive new database along with copies of the documents you have to bring. And here's where it gets tricky.
Massive new database. These things already exist. This is the thing. This is already here.
The first document needs to establish identity. That could be a passport, a birth certificate, or a green card. The second needs to show your social security number. That could be a social security card or something from your employer, like a W-2 form or a pay stub. The third thing you need is proof that you actually live here. So a utility bill, a lease, a mortgage, any official document with your address on it.
The social security number is an interesting example of America's grappling with nationalized government-powered identification schemes. It was actually the first instance of this. And its history is interesting and also telling. Social security numbers serve as a sort of national ID for American citizens, but it wasn't always that way. When economist Edwin Witt helped develop the Social Security Act in 1935, the numbers were solely a way to keep track of the new retirement payment system. Jumping ahead, even so, the assignment of Social Security numbers was controversial. The US government had never distributed individual numbers like this before, and some were, quote, very frightened of giving the government the ability to have a number to track people, Witt says. So this is one of the architects of Social Security admitting that Americans were afraid that Social Security would be used as a national tracking system and a national identity system. And the government made every effort to functionally lie to the public about Social Security. It is the first ID regime in the US, and we were promised that that would not be so.
One of the largest and most difficult problems that the board had to tackle was how to enumerate the country. The board needed some kind of unique identification information from each employee. There was already great controversy on what kind of numbering system would be used. Other ideas for enumeration had been solicited to Social Security. The Addressograph Company sent Arthur Altmeyer a metal dog tag with his name and number on it, suggesting that everyone could wear their numbers like a military ID tag.
This is a government video. Obviously, this is like a horrible, creepy, looks like a shot out of a military morgue from World War II. But let's just read this real quick. Around his neck, he wore a tag. Like a dog, like a dog, like a dog. Each worker would be required to have one for the privilege of suffering a pay cut under the Social Security Act, which is branded as a cruel hoax. Why did they include this in this video, this propaganda video? Yeah, well, good for us. It gives you a sense of the feelings about this at the time. This was not liked. We didn't like this stuff. We didn't want this stuff.
The 9-digit number system that the board had settled on would be printed on a card using banknote paper.
And that card was updated in the 1940s to say specifically, not for identification. So this is it, not for identification. Obviously, it is used for identification.
Over the decades, Social Security has utilized advanced technology to provide excellent customer service and benefits to millions of Americans.
Patty, I boldly went to socialsecurity.gov, and it's out of this world.
Socialsecurity.gov is a website for everybody.
Even teenagers?
Absolutely. Young people can help their grandparents with retiring online or getting extra help with their Medicare prescription drug costs.
So really, everyone of all ages should go to socialsecurity.gov.
Boldly go.
Boldly go. There's other things about this that are not for this video, like the fact that Social Security and Medicare got clumped together, even though they don't necessarily need to be. So when you apply for Social Security as a retiree, you end up getting like forced into Medicare. Actually, keep in the back of your head here the connection to healthcare, because again, in the grand motivation of safety and health and protection, we get ushered in the dystopia.
Do you see iVerify as part of a larger global trend towards centralized control over information?
Yeah, and we didn't have a chance to get to it, but USAID has been pushing digital IDs that would tie people's bank accounts to their social media profiles. I mean, it's out of Black Mirror. I mean, the idea would be that they'd be able to police and potentially debank you for something that you said online. It's extremely disturbing, and I was just kind of shaking my head because after 2 years of this, we just keep discovering more censorship initiatives hidden away in different agencies, the UN, USAID. I mean, it's madness.
It's terrifying. You agree. Programs like E-Verify and iVerify, the one you just mentioned as well, could be weaponized by authoritarian governments to silence dissent. And you've seen
by our government
this as well. And
Yeah.
of course.
By our government. That's right, Michael Shellenberger. Friend of the show, collaborator, doing great work on this along with Mike Benz and Matt Taibbi. USAID, they have been a major proponent of all this. They have been pumping out money into this regime. They have been pumping out white papers advocating for it, and often doing it in very bizarre ways, like in this digital strategy document, which took a little while to find because I think the Trump administration deleted all this stuff. This makes all these references to the digital divide and how we need to use these tools to advance equity or something. But there's lots of different arguments for why we need to enter the digital panopticon. But we know where this can go. And that is what China has already done. And I know some of you might think this feels hyperbolic to say we're going to end up like China. But I think a lot of you know that that's not as far away as we think.
Picture your life in a place where everything you do, what you buy, how you behave, is tracked. The government gives you a score, and the score is a measure of how trustworthy you are as a citizen and determines what you're allowed to do, like ever. Boarding a train, getting a mortgage, all goes back to this score. It's called social credit. It sounds like that show Black Mirror, but it's actually happening in China. The system's eyes are in big data, artificial intelligence, and roughly 200 million surveillance cameras. The scores go from 350 to 950 and are based on habits and behavior. Buy clothes or diapers, it's good. A lot of alcohol, too many video games, not so good. Haoyu's 752 puts her in model citizen range and gets her discounts and privileges, like using a shared bike without a deposit. She likes it. Her friends do too. They all have pretty high scores.
It's a mechanism like pushes you to become a better citizen, to build on the trust, especially on the Chinese market.
Because you're not going to be punished if you haven't done anything wrong.
I think that's the point. I think the system is working as a warning or a alert to push people to do it, to be a good person.
A warning to push people to be a good person by the Chinese Communist Party.
And it's mandatory. When it goes national, social credit scores will be assigned to every one of China's citizens for life.
I think being ranked is a good thing. A society has to have rules.
It forces us to be well behaved.
It may seem scary, but it's just like that here. We're used to it. And anyway, we don't have a choice.
It's just like that. We're used to it, and anyway, we don't have a choice. I'm laughing, but it's not funny at all. It's actually horrible. I did a documentary with my wife called At the Fork, and it actually premiered at the Berlin Film Festival many years ago, almost a decade ago. And while we were in Berlin, which we'll come back to Berlin later in the video, I met a young journalist who was working in Beijing. But because she was in Berlin, I felt like, I can maybe ask her what she thinks about the Chinese government. And what is it like to be a reporter? Are you just being nudged to be a good person? And what she told me should give you all pause, and I think most of us know this by now. She said, hey, you know what? It's fine. It's great. We're making a lot of progress in our country. And you just have to not write the wrong thing is all. So long as you don't write the wrong thing, you're fine. For example, Vogue criticized the government and the entire magazine was shut down for a month. And she said this with the same calm and the same sort of nonplussed attitude of these Chinese citizens. This is a nightmare. This is the path to totalitarianism. And we will welcome it in the name of protecting the children. That is what we're doing with even this Texas law, this seemingly okay Texas law.
By using the most data possible, the so-called big data, the system will play an important role in rebuilding a moral society.
I don't buy that for a second. It will also be used to do stuff like this.
You'll conform to the identity we give you. Eat where we tell you, live where we tell you. From now on, you'll have no identifying marks of any kind. You will not stand out in any way.
Unlike your outfit that you came in with.
To leave no lasting memory with anyone you encounter. You are a rumor, recognizable only as deja vu and dismissed just as quickly.
Notice the erasure of the Social Security card. Even in Men in Black, it was the marker. You are no longer a person if you don't have your Social Security card. How far we've come. So, are we really going to end up in China, or is it just like, hey, we're a democracy. This is okay. We will stop short of having a social credit score. Or maybe you might think, hey, we won't become this kind of regime so long as we elect conservatives or Republicans. I'm sorry, but we need to be more vigilant than that because it's a lot more complicated.
Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison predicts AI surveillance will be part of our everyday lives in the future. During a recent Oracle Q&A, Ellison said AI will soon play a major role in monitoring society through a vast network of interconnected cameras, including security systems, police body cams, and vehicle dash cams.
Everyone would see it. Your body cams will be transmitting that. The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
Ellison's vision is for AI to analyze data from this network of cameras in real time in an attempt to prevent crime while also tracking and influencing public behavior for a safer society. However, the idea raises serious privacy concerns. Critics argue it could lead to a surveillance state with constant monitoring infringing on personal privacy rights.
That it could do that? I'm pretty sure he's saying, we want that, it's good. I don't know. The framing, it could lead to a surveillance state. No, he's saying we want a surveillance state. That took place here in Austin, Texas a year ago, but the march continues on that front.
Right, good morning, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome Larry Ellison to the World Government Summit. And Larry, it's a great pleasure to have you with us.
So this is Tony Blair. And of course, it's a great pleasure to have him with them because Larry Ellison gave over $200 million in both cash and pledges to the Tony Blair Institute. In case you're not sure who Tony Blair is, he's the former prime minister of the United Kingdom, part of the sort of late 90s neoliberalism. He was a member of New Labour. New Labour's gone. Now we're back to old Labour. All of it kind of sucks in different degrees. And so does Tony Blair.
Larry was recently described by President Trump as one of the most serious players anywhere in the world, and by one media outlet as at the center of everything. He's the founder of Oracle, one of the most remarkable companies in the world.
Oracle is one of the most remarkable companies in the world. One remarkable fact that I actually learned from Mike Benz earlier today is that Oracle has a remarkable origin story that not everybody knows. Namely, this is from San Francisco Gate. Back in 2002, this article was written. So this isn't recent. Long before Oracle became embroiled in a controversy over selling its software in Sacramento, the Redwood City software giant was building its reputation and its business on government contracts. From a Central Intelligence Agency deal that launched the firm 25 years ago to recent software contracts in Sacramento and Los Angeles, Oracle is no stranger to the halls of political power. The CIA was not just Oracle's first customer. Founded in May 1977, the firm's name came from a CIA project codenamed Oracle. Company co-founders Larry Ellison, Robert Miner, and Ed Oates worked on Project Oracle at a consulting firm before striking out on their own. A quarter century later, close to a quarter of the company's revenue, this is way back when, $2.5 billion a year, still comes from selling software to federal, state, and local agencies. Okay, one of the most powerful men in the world. He briefly eclipsed Elon Musk on the richest man in the world title. And he is a big supporter of Tony Blair and of the Trump administration. And this is the population of the room, by the way. So this is the World Government Summit. I don't think that's all the world's governments. And I'm not sure this particular set of world governments are into the kind of government I would like to see. I think they have different ideas than I do, in general, on average. I'm just saying. Just saying, not looking like Freedom Caucus to me. This is not the Freedom Caucus of planet Earth.
We will have incredible reasoning power, the ability to discover things that would elude human minds, because this next generation of AI is going to reason so much faster, discover insights so much faster, whether it's being able to diagnose cancer in early stages or design therapies, custom design vaccines for those cancers, custom made for your genomics and your specific tumor antigens. If you want to improve population health, you have to take all of your healthcare data.
Remember, I've said pay attention to the healthcare line of attack. The reason why healthcare is listed in the Communist Manifesto is that it is a major point of leverage to control people because we are deeply worried about our health. And when we have health problems, it immediately becomes the central thing of our concerns.
Your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data. And in the Middle East, in the UAE, for example, they're incredibly rich in data.
Yeah. That's what we want. We want to be exactly like the United Arab Emirates. That is our model for the new West.
They have a lot of population data. The NHS in the UK has an incredible amount of population data, but it's fragmented. It's not easily accessible by these AI models. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform. So we provide context. When we want to ask a question, we've provided that AI model with all the data they need to understand our country. So that's the big step. That's kind of the missing link.
One centralized database. Oracle is fundamentally a database company. Oracle is also the new owner of TikTok. Here in the States, the soon-to-be relaunched TikTok will be running on Oracle's backend. They also own CBS News and maybe Warner Brothers soon. So Oracle is a big, powerful company. Now, I am a capitalist. I am a free marketeer, but it's not free market really when you're in bed with the government. That's not the free market. Free market to me is you make stuff and you sell it to people voluntarily and your revenues come from people who aren't forced to fund it. That's the free market. This is something else. This is the military-industrial complex that also has some private business as well, let's say. But the optics here just remind me of something else from the Silicon Valley past, something else from actually one of Larry Ellison's friends, who is someone I deeply admire, Steve Jobs, when he was back at Apple.
Secure from the pests, obeying contradictory force. Our unification of the force is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
We shall prevail. We shall prevail. Who's we here? Who's we? I don't think it's we the people. Not in this case. Very well-funded Tony Blair in his new role has been at this digital ID and using health to exploit it for a while.
You can create a digital ID today that is much more easily protected, so you can deal with a lot of the privacy and surveillance issues that worry people. But it's a natural evolution of the way that we're going to use technology in any event to transact daily life. And this COVID crisis gives an additional reason for doing that.
Never let a good crisis go to waste. Huh? Yep.
Because, look, I could be wrong about this, but when I look at, for example, how you restart some businesses, how you restart international travel, I think people's disease status, for example, have they been tested? What is the result of that test? Have they had the disease? Do they have the disease? I think unless you're able to record some of this data in a way that people can use, it's going to be difficult to go back to anything like a near normal.
So this was June 2020. This was the very early stages of the pandemic, but late enough actually for us to already know that most of what was going on was completely ridiculous. It was late enough to know, number one, that COVID did not impact young and healthy people. And basically the people that were at risk were over 70 with various complications and comorbidities, number one. Number two, what he said is a prediction and it didn't work, because we didn't actually roll out all of this stuff and put it to use. And yet we did ultimately get back to something kind of like normal. So he was wrong. He was wrong. We didn't need digital ID to reopen airports. We didn't need to close them in the first place, actually. That was all BS. That was all a scam. That was all a psyop. But time marches on while the calls for digital ID continue to sound a lot like the same thing.
The benefits are clear. Digital ID will make our interactions with each other and with the state
faster, cheaper, and more reliable.
Interactions with each other? What is he talking about? And since when do I want my interactions with my fellow man to always be efficient?
It will allow us to judge who has a right to be in our country and who doesn't.
That's an interesting claim. We didn't introduce any kind of new ID regime to end illegal immigration in this country. In fact, all we had to do was have Donald Trump come in and say, I'm going to enforce the law, and mass illegal immigration dropped to virtually zero. This is a false pretense.
Facial recognition can now spot suspects in real time from live video, tracking organized criminals at borders, in public spaces, even helping find missing people.
And even as of this week, the FBI here in the US has been putting out a request to try to find the person that allegedly placed pipe bombs in the Capitol during January 6th. Capitol's filled with cameras, can't find the guy that placed the pipe bombs. These claims are grand, and they haven't met reality all that well so far.
So we cannot continue with business as usual, and change is inevitable. This is where technology, like digital ID, becomes critical. My institute's own analysis shows that introducing this in the UK would save at least $2 billion a year, and likely more, by reducing losses to fraud, improving tax collection, and better targeting of state support.
$2 billion a year. This is, first of all, that's a rounding error in these governments. Secondly, is it just me, or does Tony Blair look like there might be someone holding a gun at him just off camera? It's not good. Why would you do this? Why would you put this video out? It's creepy. It's creepy all the way.
We know this because around the world, countries like Estonia, Singapore, even India, have successfully implemented digital ID systems, cutting red tape and improving efficiency. These nations aren't just adopting new technology. They are reimagining how the state itself works.
They're not reimagining it that much. But even India, even poor India, who's not so poor anymore, by the way. How's that going in India? Kind of a weird one to point to, given that this was just a couple years ago. India's biggest data breach, hacking gang claims to have stolen 815 million people's personal information. And if you read down this article a little bit, it's not surprising where they got the information from. According to Pwn 0001, the data was exfiltrated from information submitted by Indian residents to the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, when they had COVID-19 tests, although the ICMR has not confirmed it has been breached. Never let a crisis go to waste. Now you think, okay, well, but we're the United States, we're the most high-tech country in the world, I hope, kinda, and India, even though I guess we make a lot of their tech there, but never mind, we're better than India because we're America, right?
We are following developing news tonight about a hack targeting a government website. The Obama administration has confirmed that healthcare.gov was breached.
Well, the good news is your information was not taken.
Well, they broke in and immediately went phishing for personal information, names, birth dates, social security numbers, financial information. The only reason they didn't get that information, the feds say, is because the site they landed on was a test site. The feds say it doesn't appear the hackers were specifically targeting healthcare.gov, but may have stumbled onto it as they were searching numerous government sites looking for potential weaknesses. And they found one, a testing site that did not have a firewall. It is just the latest snag for the website, which was plagued with technical glitches when it launched last fall. The site is an online gateway to President Obama's healthcare overhaul critics call Obamacare. Republican Joe Pitts of Pennsylvania said in a statement, quote, "Sadly, the news that healthcare.gov has been hacked does not come as a surprise."
You may remember that President Obama, called in the troops from Google to fix healthcare.gov and get it to actually, at least nominally, work. But just 4 years later,
tens of thousands of people may have had their personal information exposed after the website healthcare.gov is hacked. Officials say 75,000 people are affected. The computer system that allows agents to help customers with their applications for healthcare coverage was breached. The accounts have since been deactivated. Authorities say the open enrollment period will not be impacted.
Have I made my point yet? If you made it this far, I hope at least if you are thinking, oh no, this Texas law is good, that you're a little more apprehensive about it, that you're a little more uncertain that you want to get on board with this kind of stuff. Now, unfortunately, you, dear fellow American, may in fact be more skeptical of government and may feel like, no, I don't want any of this. I don't want this. Leave me alone. I'll have a piece of paper. Just let me live my life like it was in the 90s by and large. And if I don't want to use this digital stuff, I just won't use it. One of the problems, of course, is that our data is out there like crazy and it's getting breached all the time, not just healthcare.gov, but others. This is a fact of these systems.
And a cybersecurity company sounding the alarm about the safety of your personal information. It comes from what may be the worst data breach ever, one reportedly that's resulted in the theft of the social security numbers of every American. According to a federal class action lawsuit, a hacking group claims to have stolen the personal information of nearly 3 billion people and released most of that data for free online.
We know that social security numbers were included, telephone numbers were included, home addresses, date of birth. These are really critical pieces of a person's identity that can be put together and used in a lot of different nefarious ways.
Now, look, I know one of the things that when you hear all this stuff, one of the impulses that you have, that I have, that we all have, that's reasonable, is to say, this is hopeless. All of our data is already out there. Look, 2024, they literally leaked 3 billion people's data and put it on a public website. At least this digital ID thing maybe can make it so that I prove I'm me when I go to get my social security check, or when I go to check into an airplane, or when I go to open a bank account. Maybe this is the answer. The problem is, of course, that it will be hacked, and it's not the answer at all. There isn't an easy answer here, but centralizing certainly is not it. And despite all of these hacks, despite all of these failures, despite the political pressure to not do this, it is moving forward full steam ahead. As much as I'm not happy about the way Larry Ellison looks at this, and not happy about the fact that he is a empowered government contractor superpower with the Trump administration. It's out of the frying pan into the fire when you move from right to left on this one. If President Harris was in charge, USAID and Samantha Powers and all those people would have already implemented most of this stuff, or be on the same track as the United Kingdom, whose left Labour government is just saying full steam ahead.
This government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament.
Mandatory for the right to work. Your right to exist will be controlled and dependent on a certainly not hack-proof, certainly to be instantly hacked digital ID in the United Kingdom.
Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
Protests have been held in London over the introduction of digital identification. The ID will be needed in order to live and work in the UK.
Well, thousands have actually taken part in this through central London this afternoon, culminating here at Downing Street, where they wanted to make the point right outside the seat of power. And what's interesting about the people gathered here today is the fact that there's so many people that you wouldn't really expect to be at a protest ordinarily. People who just feel very strongly that they feel this is taking society in the wrong direction. They very much think that these digital ID cards are the wrong way to go. They say it's a risk to their security and to their privacy, and they say they will hold protests like this until these ideas are scrapped. Well, the government's insisted that they're going to make people's lives easier if they're introduced in 2029, that it'll be an app on your smartphone, a bit like the NHS app that many people have got, and it will give people access to some of the public services and make life easier.
Nobody wants to be chipped and pinned and corralled and computerized and controlled by the government, which is what this is all about. Digital ID.
certainly a very strong feeling here in London. They say they won't stop until these plans are thrown out.
The UK is part of the Five Eyes, which are the 5 English-speaking nations that coordinate on all of this kind of stuff, on international intelligence, on international cyber policy. The United States, the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, the Five Eyes. And so what happens there impacts us. And it impacts us even if we ultimately can hold off, because if you travel, it is going to impact you. 29 European countries implement new biometric entry-exit systems and will eventually replace stamping passports.
The European Union's new Digital Entry and Exit Scheme, EES, which involves registering the fingerprints of people from third-party countries and taking their photographs before they enter 29 EU countries, came into force on Sunday. According to the European Union, the new system will improve the efficiency and security of border crossings. Non-EU citizens will have to pass through the biometric system to enter and exit the bloc, with their data being stored in the cloud for at least 3 years.
So if you go on a European vacation, your data, your passport, your biometrics, the scan of your face and your fingerprints will be stored in the European cloud for 3 years. President Trump, I wish that you were using your bully pulpit and your tariffs and your bullying of our allies, who look a little more like enemies to me on some of these things, to say we won't play by these rules, we will smash them. Please take your tendency to want to smash stuff and smash this, please. But we might know why that isn't getting smashed the way it should, and it might have something to do with Larry Ellison and his close ties to the administration. This is the messy nature of our politics. We don't get to have anything perfect. It's all broken. The elite movement for this is vast. President Obama gave a speech in front of Stanford University calling for this kind of stuff. This is a movement that if we don't force change through mass action in some way, we will not be able to escape it. And the first step, what I'm trying to do here, is just help raise awareness about it and help challenge your own assumptions about why you might be drawn into thinking this is okay. I don't have anything to hide, I'm fine. I'm a good citizen. Don't become one of the Chinese. Don't go along with this. Don't buy into any of this. All of this leads to a bad place.
Because you're anonymous online, it can be worse. I do think over time, with things like deep fakes, most of the time you're online, you're going to want to be in an environment where the people are truly identified. That is, they're connected to a real world identity that you trust, instead of just people saying whatever they want.
Yeah, we can't have people saying whatever they want. Can't have that. Can't have people questioning the consensus narrative. Can't have that. And this is the tool of control to stop it. That's what this is. They say it out loud. They don't even hide it. This is the stuff of dystopian futures coming at us very, very quickly. It is a theme of one of George Lucas's first films.
1138 prefix THX.
They're watching us now. I can feel it.
No one knows. No one can see us.
THX. A love story filmed on location in the 21st century. George, how right you were. The future is now. It's also the past. It's also our darkest past. And that is the thing. None of this is actually new. We've been here before. And it, like so many things, is the perennial fight for humanity. The balance between liberty and safety, the desire to have security and to live in a free society. So goes liberty, so goes everything else, including your security, it turns out.
Before me opens the heart of the former East German Ministry for State Security, the Stasi. None of the other Eastern Bloc countries has as complete a record of Secret Service activities. She reads photocopies of the files, blacking out parts that don't have to do directly with the applicant. It gives her a peek into thousands of lives in East Germany. She says she's often surprised by what people are capable of, denouncing others, making false accusations. And that the Stasi, of course, then used that information to interfere in the lives of individuals.
Why is she surprised about this? She's living the history. This is the history of the 20th century. And the great heartbreaking moment we are in right now is that as we entered the 21st century, with the birth of the open internet, it felt like this was going to be a tool of liberation. This was going to be a tool of freedom to express ourselves, to explore ideas, to go off on the beaten path, and to connect with each other globally in ways that are exciting. And actually, we have gotten all of that. We have gotten a tremendous amount of good things out of the technological progress that's taken place. And I don't want to bemoan that, but there is also a part of me that thinks, we should make the Middle Ages great again. And that all of this is heading somewhere very, very dark. And it's not even going to make us happy, because the more time our kids spend on this stuff, the more miserable they are. We have some of the highest rates of mental health problems and disorder that we've ever seen. We have a young generation that is less happy than any prior at their age, and less capable in many ways than any prior at their age. Less willing to take risks, less willing to speak up. 80% of college students say they feel like they have to censor themselves on college campuses. Over 30% think we need to use violence in the face of political ideas that we disagree with. We have a lot of problems in our society, and embracing the tools of totalitarians won't make any of them better. And that is my plea to you, dear viewer. As you struggle with your kids' technology, and I am right there with you. I have had these struggles. I have them now. Don't let that pain give in to this, to these laws, to these people. They do not have our best interests at heart. They are not setting up systems that will make your life more efficient, easier, safer, better. They will simply make you a target for actual bad guys, and actual bad guys might include them, as we've seen in not too distant past. But let me know what you think. Have I overreacted to this Texas law and the ones sweeping the country? Please let me know. I'm excited to hear your pushback. And of course, we'll put all of the links and materials from this video over at dadssavesamerica.com. And if you want to support us here at Dad Saves America, one of the ways you can do it is by going to our merch store, where you can get mugs like this. You support what we're doing when you buy one. And of course, thank you for watching, and have a great weekend.